Hey guys, welcome back to Ace Recaps. Today I'm going to be explaining a 2018 fantasy horror film titled Apostle. The story revolves around a man who travels to a mystical and horrific island to save his kidnapped sister. There he realizes that the island is taken care of by a mysterious goddess, who is captured and force-fed human blood to enhance her powers. Will he be able to save his sister from the wrath of such evil people? Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Thomas, on a train, with a ransom letter in his hand, is on his way to a mystical island where his sister is held captive. He is informed by his father that the island is a place run by a cult with absurd rules. It is meant to be a sanctuary away from war and hunger, but the leaders are savages. When he's about to get on a boat, he notices that his ticket is different from the rest of the members, and so he swaps it with another person and his luggage is marked by the captain. They sail through the rough seas and finally get to the island, keeping the location a secret to all. They hike up a mountain and reach the village where Thomas runs into a young man named Jeremy who's clearly seen hitting on Fionn, the daughter of one of the founders. The newcomers are welcomed by the villagers and are each given a loaf of bread and an empty jar. All of them are shown to their cabins where they can rest for the day. The village is serene and beautiful, where everyone is expected to contribute towards the maintenance. The next morning, all the people are gathered together to hear the sermon of Charles, the founder of the village. On his way to the gathering, Thomas runs into Elaine, a beautiful young woman who's also the medic and the daughter of Charles. He spots the man from earlier being dragged into a secret room for questioning, but Thomas just ignores him and heads to the sermon as his main concern is his sister. At the chapel, Charles preaches about how the island was discovered. Under the rule of Great Britain, in the year 1820, Quinn, Frank and himself were sentenced to unalivement and thrown into the sea. They managed to swim ashore this beautiful island, protected and cared for by a goddess. She is catered to and well taken care of, and hence she feeds the people of the village. They are now free men and don't have to adhere to the cruelties of the government. Thomas spots a woman walking by the chapel and looks for her after the sermon, but we see that the plants are withering off, suggesting something is wrong with the island. The prisoner is bashed up terribly as the founders need the ransom to buy food from the mainland to feed the villagers because the soil is not providing for them anymore. The crops are not producing any food and the animals are giving birth to unalive babies, suggesting something horrid going on. They soon realize that the real suspect has snuck into the village and they slit the innocent prisoner's throat. That night, Jeremy and Fionn sneak out of the village and get on a boat. They cuddle, share their dreams and aspirations, and Jeremy promises to build her a house very soon. They both continue to make intense love and make the most of their time together, keeping it a secret from their parents. Thomas is seen roaming around the village, peeping into everyone's room looking for his sister, but he just witnesses a weird ritual where everyone cuts their hand and bleed into a jar. He sees Charles open up a secret chamber in his house and walk into it, indicating the place his sister might be imprisoned. On his way back to his room, he runs into Jeremy and Fionn sneaking back into the village, but they both act like it never happened. When he gets back to his cabin, he notices that all the rooms have a jar of blood outside their door. Not wanting to do it himself, he pours some of his neighbor's goo into his own jar. Charles walks out of his secret passage into the forest and is welcomed into a house by an unknown figure. On opening his door, he gets a cut on his hand and bleeds onto the floor, and a woman underneath the cabin tries to slurp some of it. Thomas continues to map and draw out the location of the village in hopes of retrieving his sister soon enough. Every morning, Jeremy uses an illegal substance and is as high as the Burj Khalifa throughout the day. He is suddenly awoken by Jeremy, who tells him that it's time for their daily task. They build a cabin for the newcomers and they decide to keep their last night's activities a secret. The both of them walk out of the village to fetch some more wood, where Thomas blackmails Jeremy into telling him the whereabouts of his sister. The boy, in fear, tries to flee, but soon comes clean. One day, while helping out Charles, he spotted the woman gagged and stuffed in a wooden crate. He is made to keep his findings a secret by the founder, as he has all authority in the village. As a few days go by, Fionn approaches Elaine and finds out that she's actually pregnant with Jeremy's child, even though they are not married, but Elaine tells her that it's all going to be okay. Thomas, along with the other newcomers, are taken into the chapel. Each one of them is made to sing their official anthem, and just before they get to Thomas, A man working for the Britain government tries to stab and unalive the founder, but Thomas stops him and gets cut in the chest. The man who was sent by the government to shut down the toxic village is pricked all over by the soldiers. Thomas is rushed to the infirmary and has now gained the trust of the founders. Charles also cuts his hand and promises him that he'll be well taken care of and offers him his gratitude for saving his life. Elaine tends to his wound and is given some more opium to help deal with the pain. In his room, Thomas hears the bells ringing in the village. His sister is brought in with shackles and Charles announces that the woman is a traitor and if her brother doesn't show himself in the next 24 hours, she's going to be unalived. Being as high as he is and knowing that if he goes out to help her he'd be executed, Thomas cries and breaks his bottle of the illegal substance. The next morning, she wakes up on the ground like an animal, and the cold-hearted kids of the village are seen poking the woman with sticks while she just sits there helplessly. Charles and Quinn decide to search the rooms of all the newcomers to find the mole in the village. The remaining food will only last them another week at most and so Quinn tries to convince him to feed the goddess more human blood. The kind-hearted Elaine shoos away the kids and feeds the woman some soup, promising her that she won't let her father unalive her. Fionn, being the cheerful young child that she is seen looking at herself in the washroom, but her creepy father Quinn spies on the poor girl. That night during the village feast, Thomas decides to make his move. Along with Jeremy, the both of them break down the passage under the founder's house and Thomas goes in, keeping the boy as a lookout. While going through the cabin of the newcomers, Charles finds the drawn-out map of the village in Thomas's room. They all rush to the house where Frank finds his son and shoos him away before being caught by the others. Charles loads up his gun and heads to the exit to find the man whereas Frank goes in from the main entrance. On his way there, Thomas notices weird artwork in a stream in the secret passage. Just as he's about to get out, he spots somebody at the exit and decides to back up. On his way, he sees Frank and decides to jump into the stream as that's his only way out. We realize that it's actually blood and not water for some reason, and just as he gets to the end, a creepy old woman shows herself and chases Thomas. He panics and gets out of there as soon as possible and luckily evades her. He gets to the end where he cleans himself up and rests for the day. Charles approaches the woman tied down and strapped to a chair with trees growing out of her. The talk about the goddess who took care of the island was all true. He is pissed off that she showed herself to Thomas and feeds her some of his own blood. She slurps at it like an addict and the plants around her grow and bloom with flowers. We watch a man with a tree face known as the Grinder drag Thomas's sister and hang her off the wall, intending her to be the goddess's next meal. Early next morning, Elaine approaches the sacred location where Thomas had also been resting. She tells him about the paintings on the wall preaching about the goddess, but he just believes it to be superstition. When he's asked about the scars on his back, Thomas claims that years ago, he was an avid worshipper of Christ. When the Chinese invaded his country and burnt down all the crosses, he was forced to stop his beliefs. The man prayed to God to show himself and save him, but in vain. He was burned on his back with the smoldering hot metal of the cross. This is when he stopped believing in Jesus Christ and turned into an addict. His sister was there for him throughout and helped him through his dark past. That is why he's here to save her no matter what. Elaine takes him through a paddy field where she explains that they live on scorched land but somehow the plants still grow. For the past year, however, these plants have not been giving them any produce due to the goddess turning weak. Fionn informs Jeremy about her pregnancy and they decide to pack up their bags and vacate the island forever. As he's leaving her house, Quinn notices this. When he goes over, he sees that Fionn is packing up her bags. He starts assaulting her, at which point she fights back and claims that she's pregnant. She tries to convince her father with love, but he's enraged about the fact that the child is cursed. When Jeremy returns back, he spots his dear Fionn unalived by her father. Angered by the fact that the love of his life and his child are no more, he tries to fight off Quinn, but in vain. The man gets out of the house and screams to all that the boy unalived his daughter and he's chased by the guards. Mad with power, he orders the execution of the boy. The people are hesitant to listen to him at first, but they are forced to do as he claims that he's now the leader of the camp. The boy runs through the paddy field and begs Elaine, but to no avail. He is dragged away by the guards. Elaine tries to stop them, but everyone has now turned against her. Wearing weird costumes, the guards strap the boy onto a table. The crazy old man then drills a hole through the innocent boy's head while he screams and cries until he's no more. Quinn then places a rose petal in his brain, completing the purification process. Looking at his son in this state, Frank is devastated. He gets out his gun and decides to end this madness once and for all by unaliving the goddess of the island. Thomas uses this opportunity to escape and he runs through the forest where he sees the old woman walking through graciously. As Frank gets there, he is shot by the grinder and is unalived as well. Sick of the madness, Charles tries to stop Quinn, but he gets shot too. Thomas sneaks into the cabin where he witnesses the goddess being force-fed Jeremy's remains. The boy has already been ripped to shreds and consumed by the goddess. Thomas uses this opportunity to free his sister from the wall. Before they could escape, he is hit on the head by the grinder and the woman is dragged away by Quinn. Elaine, while praying to God for his protection, is also cuffed and taken in as a prisoner. When Thomas wakes up, he is bound with rusty metal wires and is about to turn into minced meat. As his fingers go through the machine, he manages to escape the shackles and trap the grinder into it. It's a close call, but Thomas unalives the grinder in a brutal manner. He approaches the goddess and she welcomes him as his son. Through the power of touch she enlightens him and seems to be happy that the torture is finally going to end. Thomas doesn't want to do it, but has to, and so he lights her up on fire and everything burns down. Quinn claims that because his daughter is no more, he's going to use the two women to reproduce as many times as he wishes. Apparently, when the goddess was discovered, it was his idea to strap her down and force-feed her animal blood, and that is why he claims to have all rights over the island. Thomas runs through the forest and notices multiple people hanging off the trees. When he gets to the village, everything is now on fire. The people are seen panicking and running out, trying to escape the island forever. Thomas approaches Quinn and gets stabbed multiple times, but using the help of Elaine and his sister, they finally end the evil man's wrath. They run to get to the boat, but Thomas isn't able to continue anymore. He tells his goodbyes to his sister and watches them flee the evil island once and for all. As he's breathing his last breath, the plants around him come to life and dig through his skin, indicating that he's now a part of the island since the powers were passed down to him. Would you guys ever choose to live on such an island? That's all folks. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.